Hey guys, DMS3TV here today, and we are doing a comparison between the HD598, Monolith M560 from Monoprice, and the HD650. To start off, I want to point out that all of these headphones are in completely different price brackets, so it's more or less of a kind of where does everything fit in and how do they compare. I've had a lot of people ask me what the differences are between the HD598 and the HD650, and it really justifies the difference in price. And I've also had a lot of people ask me, you know, how does the HD598 stand up to the Monolith M560 since they're pretty close in price? First off, the HD598. Now, this is the 598 SE, which is the open back version. They're very comfortable. I mean, some of the most comfortable headphones that I've worn. I mean, HD650 is a little bit higher on that list, but these are pretty great. The only thing that bothers me is this top headband is a little bit firm, but they kind of fixed that with the 598 CS. So sound, which is kind of the big focus I'm going on with this video. I mean, above everything else, the M560 wins on build quality over everything that I've really ever tried. So we're not really talking as much about that today, but comfort and sound more than anything. So on sound, the 598s, the open back ones, are a little bit more A-shaped. So it's not ultra bassy, it's not super bright. It's brighter than the HD650s, but they're kind of more of a I don't know, it's that classic Sennheiser sound signature. And it's not that they don't necessarily have lows, it's just that they're not overwhelming, really crazy powerful or anything like that. As far as, you know, vocal clarity, they're great, very similar to the HD650s in that regard. If you take these and the HD650 side by side, you will notice a difference. Not immediately. I mean, you first put them on and you're going to be like, these sound kind of similar. But it's really when you start paying attention to the details and really get a chance to kind of A-B them side by side, you notice the biggest differences. The HD650s, well, let me grab them. The HD650s are a lot darker. They don't have as much of that top end on them. And as I mentioned before, vocal presence is pretty much unmatched on everything else that I've ever heard compared to the HD650s, as well as comfort. But the best way to describe it, and I saw this in my comments, is that the HD598 is like a really, it's like a photograph. It's like a photograph with really good dynamic range, great colors, but you notice the more you look at it that it's just barely out of focus. And that's the best way I could possibly describe the HD598 versus the HD650. The HD598 is like you take the HD650 and just barely pull it out of focus. You lose a little bit of detail. Now, with that said, I think the HD598 is still an incredible value. I mean, used you can get them for about, you know, 100, 110. New, they're still about, I think, a 150-ish on Amazon, maybe 160. But they're honestly worth that, if not more, because you can tell when you put these on, you put the HD650s on, that they are closely related. Now, does that mean the HD650 isn't worth its price tag? No, the HD650 is still in another whole nother league, but you can tell when you listen to the HD598s that they're definitely related. So how does the Monolith M560 fit into that? I mean, I would say right in the middle. The thing about the Monolith M560 is, depending on the type of music you listen to, you will most likely like these more than the HD598s. I mean, if you really are looking for something less fatiguing, you know, a little bit more comfortable, because the 598s are more comfortable, and you can listen to them for longer because they're not as sharp or punchy. But the M560s, like I said, they are sharp, they are punchy, you know, they are in your face. They're better for more aggressive music, but they do have really fine, tight, sharp details that I really like over the 598. So it's kind of a hard decision for me to say which one I really prefer more. Now these, as far as plain arts go, these do outperform a lot of headphones, and I believe they are well worth, if not worth significantly more than their $200 price tag. And I will go on and say that over and over again, especially when they're in their open back configuration. In their closed back configuration, I believe there's plenty of closed back headphones out there that could potentially outperform these, but for their versatility and overall sound and their build quality and comfort, the M560 really fits right in the middle. I mean, I'd say they're better than the 598s, but not quite as good as the 650s. In fact, I'd still say, and I stand by it, overall, I think that the M560 is a better headphone than my HE400s from Hi-Fi Minar. Just overall, you know, taking, like I said, into account build quality, sound quality, little things like the cables, how they plug up, comfort, everything. So, but these are a lot more narrow, like I said, than the Hi-Fi Minar. And that's kind of a recurring theme here, is that all of these headphones are really in your face. While these are very narrow, they do, in my opinion, lack a little bit of vocal presence. I mean, compared to Sennheiser, they lack vocal presence, but Sennheiser is kind of the king of that. You put on HD650s, and every time you listen to something different, it feels like they're lacking. It just seems to be how it is. Now, I mean, maybe not if you have like something crazy like some LCDs or something like that. That's a different story entirely, but comparing to things like this, obviously the HD650 is going to win out in pretty much every category. But I mean, that being said, if I listen to like Rage Against the Machine or something that's really punchy, really powerful, it's going to sound great on the 650s. But something like that, you'll probably get a better experience out of for shorter listening sessions on the M560, just because they really, being planars, they really have that really tight bass, that really hard punch, and that good kick that you just don't really get out of dynamic drivers, no matter how much better they may be. I mean, you do lose the width and the incredible, separation that the 650s have, but I'd say depending on what you listen to, these could better suit you. And not to mention, these are significantly easier to drive. So, I mean, they fit right in their place. $150 worth more than $150. $200 definitely worth more than $200. And now 650s with the HD6XX out, which is basically the same thing. It's hard to say. These things have been bouncing all over the place in price lately, so it's kind of hard to nail exactly where they land, but I mean, they're still, I would say, the gold standard of hi-fi audio. It's hard to find anything else that really just fits so well smack in the middle. I mean, I still don't know anyone that would not recommend HD650s. I mean, you ask it, if anybody asks, are HD650s good? Should I get these HD650s? People are pretty much always going to say yes, absolutely. If you're considering them, you should absolutely get them. They're great across the board. Everyone seems to love them. I mean, I take back that I have met one person who was not a fan of HD650s, but I think that was, in his opinion, he said just because they're really, everyone seems to love them. Which that's understandable. If everyone loves something, there's going to be somebody out there who doesn't like it, and that's completely fine. That's how things go. And I mean, like I said, this might not be to your taste. You might just want something that's just extremely punchy and really just in your face, and the grit and the Monolith M560s. And that's not to say that the Monoliths are just for aggressive music too. You could listen to anything on these and it's still going to sound great. Just, if you're really into just extremely laid back stuff, you might like the 598s more. I mean, I have a friend who listened to these side by side and ended up liking the 598s more than the M560s. It just depends on what you listen to and what your preferences are, because everyone has their own preferences for their different types of sound signatures and things like that. I mean, you might not care about the extra level of detail you get with the HD650s, you might be more into that extra little bit of punch, or you might like, that A shape a little bit more just because it's less fatiguing. So really, I mean, when it comes down to it, these are all excellent. No matter which one you get, you're not going to go wrong. You're still going to love it. I would definitely take the 598s for gaming over the M560, simply because they have that extremely good separation in comparison. Because I would say the M560s are a little bit more lacking in soundstage compared to the 598s and 650s, but I mean, realistically, across the board, I can't really say much bad about any of them. They're all three just excellent. So another note on comfort. Like I said, the 598s are very comfortable. The only thing I really don't like is this headband right here, which, that's something that can be remedied. Aside from that, they're extremely light. They fit all the way around my ears. They don't actually touch my ears at any point. The cable is very small and light, plugs into just one side. There's a variety of cables. There's short ones, there's long ones. I mean, you're pretty much covered there. And you can wear these pretty much all day. And since they're open, I can hear myself talking just fine right now. I can wear these at work, and I can, hear my coworkers in the office, and I can turn down my music low enough to where it doesn't bother anybody. M560s, slightly more isolating. Even when open, it's a little bit harder to hear my surroundings, but you can still tell that they're an open set of headphones. I can still hear people talking in the room, just slightly more muffled. They do leak, not as much as the 650s, and I've had a lot of people ask me how much do they leak when I have the covers on them and they're closed. Well, with these on there, they really don't leak much at all, honestly. You can really crank them, and you're not going to hear a whole lot of sound leak. I mean, as closed-back headphones go, they are pretty isolating. It's actually really surprising how well they do. And like I said, you do lose a little bit of sound there, but it's kind of to be expected. As far as comfort goes, these are very comfortable. My only complaint is after I wear them, like all day or all night, they do get a little bit heavy. I mean, they're 500-gram headphones, or close to that. And that's a lot, especially comparing to these other two. I kind of think that's worth it for the build quality, but it wouldn't hurt for them to try and cut out some weight somewhere. And actually, there is one other thing. I know I said I can't say much bad about these, but there's one thing, and that's that these pads, like I said, are magnetically attached, and there doesn't seem to be a way to get aftermarket pads on these without cannibalizing and destroying these stock pads to get the rings off them. So maybe somebody will make a way to do that, or maybe we'll just have to buy replacement pads from Monoprice and start cutting them up, who knows. So downsides there, weight kind of affects the comfort. Pads are not bad for comfort, but they could be better, a little bit better. Not on ear, they're still over ear, but they're a little bit small for over ear because they just do slightly compress my ear from the top and bottom. But it really doesn't bother me until I wear them for a long time. But if I could throw alpha pads on these things, I absolutely would. So with those two down, there's the 650s. And if you saw my other video comparing the HD400, HD700, and HD650, you'll know that these things, if I take either of these off and I put the 650s on, it feels like relief almost. And these are both comfortable headphones. It's just the 650s are so much more comfortable than everything else. I like wearing the 650s more than I like IEMs. I like the 650s more than I liked the Hi-Fiman, or the HD700s, HD598, M560, anything. There's nothing compares in comfort to the HD650s. Not that I've ever tried. So, but, once again, I kind of get on my HD650s at the King of the Hill rant, and I'll never stop. So that's really what I got to say here, guys. If you have any more questions about these, feel free to leave a comment below or message me directly. A lot of people have been messaging me directly. So if you have enough questions, I might make another follow-up video on them. A lot of people really seem to like these M560s, so I think that's pretty cool. I've got some interesting videos coming out in the near future, one of which is the Audio GD NFB11 amplifier, which I've been talking about a lot. So stick around for that. That's going to be pretty big. Make sure you leave a like on this. If you're not subscribed, please get subscribed. And if you want to support the channel on Patreon, I will leave a link in the video description. But until next time, guys, peace.
And when we are overwhelmed by a strong emotion, we feel that we are very vulnerable. We may die. This is too bad, because we are more than our emotion. You have the impression that the tree is very vulnerable, but if you see the tree is firmly rooted in the ground, the impression that the tree is vulnerable will vanish.